The bustling interstellar hub of Nova Prime was alive with energy. Ships from across the galaxy docked at its gleaming ports, their engines humming softly as travelers disembarked to explore the vibrant marketplace. Neon lights flickered in every color imaginable, casting a kaleidoscope of hues over the crowded streets. Vendors shouted enthusiastically, hawking exotic goods, spices that smelled like distant worlds, shimmering fabrics spun from alien silks, and trinkets imbued with strange energies. It was a place where humans mingled freely with beings of all shapes and sizes, each species bringing its own unique customs and stories. Liam Carter stood amidst the chaos, feeling both fascinated and overwhelmed. He wasn't here for adventure. He was here because his job demanded it. As an engineer specializing in advanced propulsion systems, Liam had been sent to repair a malfunctioning trade station orbiting Nova Prime. The assignment was supposed to be routine. A quick fix followed, by a return to Earth, but fate had other plans. Liam adjusted the strap of his toolkit slung over his shoulder and glanced around. Despite his initial discomfort with the alien atmosphere, there was something undeniably thrilling about being surrounded by so much diversity. Tall, insect-like creatures with iridescent wings flitted past him, while shorter, stocky humanoids bartered loudly over glowing crystals. Even the air carried a faint metallic tang, mingling with the sweet aroma of foreign delicacies wafting from food stalls. It was then that he saw her. She stood near one of the market stalls, examining a display of intricately carved figurines. Her presence seemed almost surreal against the chaotic backdrop of Nova Prime. She was tall and slender, with skin that shimmered faintly under the neon lights, giving her an ethereal glow. Her eyes were large and almond-shaped, reflecting light, like polished gemstones, and her hair cascaded down her back in waves of silver threads that caught the breeze. She wore a flowing gown made of material Liam couldn't identify. It seemed to shift colors depending on how the light hit it. Liam froze, unable to look away. There was something captivating about her, something beyond mere physical beauty. It wasn't just her appearance, but the way she moved, graceful and deliberate, as though every step carried meaning. Curiosity tugged at him, urging him closer. After a moment's hesitation, he approached her cautiously, unsure of what to say, or even if she spoke his language. "Hi," he began awkwardly, raising a hand in greeting. I'm, Liam." The woman turned to face him, her expression unreadable at first. Then, slowly, a smile spread across her lips, softening her features. "Hello, Liam," she replied, her voice melodic yet clear. "My name is Alara." Relief washed over him. At least they could communicate. "You speak English?" "I've studied many languages," she said simply, tilting her head slightly as though studying him in turn. "Your kind comes often to this place." Liam chuckled nervously. "Yeah, well, I'm not exactly here for fun, just working on a repair job nearby." Alara nodded thoughtfully. "Repair work is important. Without it, progress halts." Her tone carried a wisdom that belied her youthful appearance. For the next hour, they talked. Alara explained that she hailed from Zephyria, a distant planet, known for its crystalline landscapes and bioluminescent flora. She described her people, the Velari, as peaceful artisans who valued harmony above all else. In turn, Liam shared snippets of his life on Earth, his passion for engineering, his love of tinkering with machines, and his occasional longing for adventure beyond the confines of his mundane existence. As they conversed, Liam found himself drawn deeper into her world. Her descriptions of Zephyria painted vivid images in his mind. Fields of glowing flowers that sang when touched, skies streaked, with multiple sunsets and cities built entirely of translucent minerals that refracted light into dazzling displays. He listened intently, enchanted by her words, and realized he hadn't felt this engaged in conversation in years. Their connection deepened further when Alara mentioned her interest in art. She pulled out a small device from a pouch at her side and activated it. Holographic projections sprang to life before them, abstract sculptures that seemed to pulse with inner energy, paintings that shifted and changed as though alive. Liam stared in awe, marveling at the creativity behind each piece. "You're an artist?" he asked, genuinely impressed. "In a way," she admitted with a modest shrug. "I create designs inspired by our environment. It's how we preserve memories of our world." Inspired by her passion, Liam shared some of his own sketches stored on his tablet. Blueprints of engines, diagrams of mechanical parts, and even a few doodles he'd done during idle moments. To his surprise, Alara didn't dismiss them as purely functional. Instead, she complimented the precision and symmetry in his work, likening it to the geometric patterns found in Veilari architecture. By the time they parted ways that evening, Liam knew he wanted to see her again. They exchanged contact information, promising to meet the following day. As he walked back to his temporary quarters, his mind buzzed with excitement. For the first time in ages, he felt truly alive. Over the next few days, Liam and Alara spent nearly every waking moment together. They explored Nova Prime, visiting museums, attending cultural performances, and sampling foods neither had tried before. Each experience brought them closer, forging a bond that transcended their differences. Liam admired Alara's intelligence and grace while she appreciated his curiosity and genuine enthusiasm for learning about her culture. One evening, as they sat beneath the twin moons of Nova Prime, gazing up at the star-speckled sky, Alara surprised him. "Liam," she said softly, turning to face him, "there is something I wish to ask you." He looked at her, intrigued. "What is it?" She hesitated briefly, then continued. "In my culture, when two souls find such harmony together, it is customary to formalize their bond through marriage. Would you consider becoming part of my family?" Liam blinked, stunned. Marriage? He hadn't expected this. Not so soon, anyway. But as he gazed into Alara's luminous eyes, he realized he didn't need more time to decide. Something inside him clicked into place as though he'd been waiting for this moment without knowing it. "Yes," he said finally, his voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotions swirling within him. "I'll marry you." Alara's face lit up with joy, and she leaned forward to press her forehead against his, a gesture he later learned symbolized unity among the Veilari. In that moment, Liam felt a profound sense of belonging, as though he'd stepped into a new chapter of his life. The journey to Zephyria was unlike anything Liam had ever experienced. The Veilari vessel that carried them moved with an elegance he could scarcely comprehend, its sleek form gliding through the void of space as though it were swimming in water, rather than traversing the cold expanse between stars. Inside, the ship hummed softly, a soothing vibration that seemed to resonate within his very bones. Alara explained that the craft was alive in a sense, its core powered by a symbiotic organism that shared energy with those aboard. It sounded almost poetic, but Liam couldn't help feeling uneasy about entrusting his life to something so alien. As they approached her homeworld, Liam pressed his face against the transparent viewport, marveling at the sight before him. Zephyria shimmered like a jewel suspended in darkness, its surface covered in sprawling fields of bioluminescent plants that pulsed gently with light. Rivers of liquid crystal snaked across the landscape, reflecting the twin moons hanging low in the sky. Towering crystalline structures rose from the ground, their faceted surfaces refracting sunlight into dazzling rainbows. It was breathtakingly beautiful. Yet there was an otherworldly quality to it that made Liam feel small and insignificant. When they landed, Alara led him to her family estate, a grand palace carved entirely out of translucent stone. The structure radiated a soft glow, illuminating the surrounding gardens where flowers bloomed in colors Liam didn't have names for. He stepped inside cautiously, taking in the intricate designs etched into every wall and floor. The air smelled faintly sweet, like honey mixed with something floral, and the temperature was perfectly comfortable despite the lack of visible heating or cooling systems. "Welcome home," Alara said, smiling warmly as she gestured toward the expansive interior. "This is where I grew up." Liam nodded, still trying to process everything. "It's incredible, like nothing I've ever seen." Before he could say more, two figures emerged from another room, They looked strikingly similar to Alara, though each had distinct features that set them apart. One was shorter and more playful-looking, with a mischievous glint in her large eyes and a wide grin that revealed sharp teeth. The other was taller and more reserved, her posture rigid and her expression unreadable. Both wore flowing garments, akin to Alara's, though theirs shimmered in different hues, one gold, the other deep violet. "These are my sisters," Alara introduced, motioning to each in turn. Scylla and Tynera. Liam offered a polite smile, unsure how to proceed. "Nice to meet you both." Scylla tilted her head curiously, studying him with unabashed interest. "So this is the human Alara told us about? You're smaller than I expected." Tynera crossed her arms, her gaze piercing. "And quieter. We'll see if he can adapt." Alara shot them a warning look before turning back to Liam. "Don't mind them. They're just curious." Curious wasn't quite the word Liam would have chosen. Intimidating might have been closer to the truth. Still, he nodded stiffly, determined not to let his nerves show. "I'm sure we'll get along fine." For the rest of the day, Liam did his best to acclimate to his new surroundings. Scylla proved to be endlessly energetic, peppering him with questions about Earth and its customs. She laughed loudly at his attempts to explain concepts like coffee, machines, and traffic jams, finding humor in things he hadn't realized were amusing. Tynera, on the other hand, remained distant, observing him silently whenever their paths crossed. Her presence was unsettling, as though she were constantly judging him. That night after dinner, a meal consisting of dishes Liam couldn't identify but found surprisingly delicious, he followed Alara to what she called their sleeping quarters. He assumed it would be a private room for the two of them, but when they entered, he froze in shock. Scylla and Tynera were already there, lounging on cushions scattered around the spacious chamber. The bed itself was enormous, easily large enough to accommodate all four of them. "What's going on?" Liam asked, his voice tinged with panic. "Why are they here?" Alara blinked, confused by his reaction. "This is our shared space. On Zephyria, families sleep together. It strengthens our bond." Liam stared at her, dumbfounded. "You mean all of us? Together?" "Yes," she replied simply, as though it were the most natural thing in the world. "Is that not how humans do it?" "No," he exclaimed, his face flushing red. "Humans value privacy, especially in, well, situations like this." Alara frowned, clearly troubled by his discomfort. "I'm sorry, Liam. I thought you understood."
"Our ways when you agreed to marry me. I didn't know," he protested, running a hand through his hair. "Nobody mentioned anything about sharing a bed." Scylla smirked from her spot on the floor. "Looks like someone needs to brush up."
On interstellar etiquette, Tynera rolled her eyes. Enough teasing, let him adjust. Despite their reassurances, Liam couldn't shake the unease gnawing at him. He paced the room, struggling to wrap his mind around the situation. How had he ended up here? Just days ago, he'd been fixing engines on Nova Prime, living a simple, predictable life. Now he was thousands of light years away, married to an alien woman and expected to share a bed with her sisters. It felt surreal, like stepping into some bizarre dream or nightmare. Eventually, exhaustion won out over anxiety. Liam reluctantly joined the others on the oversized bed, keeping as much distance as possible between himself and the sisters. Sleep came fitfully, interrupted by strange dreams filled with glowing landscapes and whispered voices. When he woke the next morning, he found Alara watching him with concern. "Are you all right?" she asked softly. He sighed, rubbing his temples. "I don't know. This is all so overwhelming." She reached out to take his hand, her touch gentle and reassuring. "I understand it's difficult, but please believe me when I say this arrangement is meant to bring us closer, not push us apart." Liam nodded, though doubt lingered in his mind. Over breakfast, Scylla teased him mercilessly about his awkwardness the previous night, while Tynera remained stoic, offering little input beyond occasional glances that made him feel even more self-conscious. Yet amid the tension, there were moments of genuine connection. Alara patiently explained aspects of Velari culture, helping him navigate unfamiliar customs. Sila's playful banter occasionally elicited laughter, breaking the ice in unexpected ways. Even Tainara softened slightly, showing hints of curiosity during conversations about Earth technology. By midday, Liam decided to explore the estate further, hoping to clear his head. Alara accompanied him, guiding him through winding corridors, adorned with glowing murals depicting scenes of Velari history. Each image told a story of ancient rituals, celestial phenomena, and the enduring bond between siblings. As they walked, Alara spoke passionately about her people's values, unity, empathy, and the belief that no individual exists in isolation. "It's why we share everything," she explained. "Our joys, our burdens, even our spaces. It keeps us connected." Liam listened intently, beginning to grasp the depth of their philosophy. Still, he couldn't ignore the practical challenges of adapting to such a radically different way of life. Back on Earth, personal boundaries were sacred. Here they seemed almost non-existent. Later that afternoon, Scylla dragged him outside to join her in tending to the garden. She handed him a tool resembling a wand, which emitted soft pulses of light as he waved it over the luminous plants. To his surprise, the activity proved oddly therapeutic, and Scylla's light-hearted chatter helped ease some of his lingering discomfort. "You're not so bad for a human," she remarked, grinning. "Just try not to overthink everything." "I'll do my best," Liam replied with a wry smile. As evening fell, the four of them gathered once again in the sleeping quarters. This time, Liam felt marginally less apprehensive. He climbed onto the bed without protest, positioning himself between Alara and Scylla. Tainara settled on the far side, her usual aloofness giving way to a quiet calm as she closed her eyes. For the first time since arriving on Zephyria, Liam allowed himself to relax completely. The rhythmic breathing of those around him created a soothing cadence, and the faint glow of the walls cast a warm, golden light over the room. Though many questions still lingered in his mind, he realized one thing for certain: he was no longer alone. Whether he liked it or not, these three women had become part of his life, and perhaps in time, he would come to see them as family too. The days that followed were a whirlwind of discovery for Liam. Each morning began with the soft glow of Zephyria's twin suns, filtering through the crystalline windows of the estate, casting prismatic patterns across the walls. The sisters took turns introducing him to their daily routines, which ranged from tending to the glowing gardens to participating in communal rituals that celebrated their shared heritage. While Alara remained his primary guide, Scylla and Tainara slowly revealed layers of their personalities, challenging Liam to see beyond his initial impressions. Scylla, the most outgoing of the three, had a knack for making even the simplest tasks feel like adventures. One afternoon, she led Liam deep into the forest surrounding the estate, where trees grew tall and translucent, their leaves shimmering like stained glass. She explained that these woods were sacred to the Velari, a place where ancestors were said to whisper wisdom to those who listened closely. As they walked, Scylla pointed out subtle signs of life: tiny creatures darting between roots, bioluminescent fungi pulsing faintly in the shadows, and streams that flowed upward against gravity. "This is where we come when we need clarity," Scylla said, her playful tone giving way to something more serious. "It's not just nature, it's alive. Everything here connects." Liam nodded, though he wasn't entirely sure what she meant. He knelt by one of the streams, watching as droplets floated lazily toward the sky. It was mesmerizing but also disorienting. On Earth, water obeyed simple laws of physics. Here it seemed to dance to its own rhythm. "You're still thinking too much," Scylla teased, nudging him lightly. "Stop trying to understand everything. Just feel it." Her words lingered in his mind long after they returned to the estate. Feel it. It sounded so easy, yet Liam found himself struggling to let go of his analytical mindset. Back on Earth, logic ruled his decisions. Every problem had a solution rooted in reason. But here, surrounded by beings who embraced intuition over intellect, he felt like an outsider looking in. Tainara, on the other hand, offered a different kind of challenge. Where Scylla was open and light-hearted, Tainara was guarded and deliberate. She rarely spoke unless necessary, and when she did, her words carried weight. One evening, as Liam helped her repair a malfunctioning energy conduit in the estate's central chamber, she finally broke her usual silence. "You don't belong here," she said bluntly, her sharp eyes locking onto his. Liam froze, unsure how to respond. I know I'm not from this world, but Alara chose me and—" "That's not what I mean," Tainara interrupted, her voice firm but not unkind. "You think adapting means learning our customs or sharing our space. But true belonging requires sacrifice. Are you willing to give up parts of yourself for us?" Her question struck a nerve. Sacrifice. The idea unsettled him. What exactly would he have to lose in order to fit into this alien world? His independence, his identity? He opened his mouth to argue, but Tainara held up a hand, silencing him. "I don't say this to hurt you," she continued, "but you must decide if your bond with Alara and with us is worth the cost. We are not like humans. Our unity is sacred, but it demands more than most can offer." Liam spent the rest of the night pondering her words. Was he ready to make such a commitment? Or was he simply clinging to the excitement of being part of something extraordinary? The doubt gnawed at him, keeping him awake as the others slept soundly around him. Despite his inner turmoil, Liam continued to immerse himself in Veilari culture. Alara arranged for him to attend a ceremonial feast hosted by their extended family, a gathering designed to welcome him officially into their community. The event took place in a grand hall within the estate, its walls adorned with intricate carvings that glowed softly under the light of suspended orbs. Dozens of Veilari filled the space, their shimmering forms creating a kaleidoscope of colors as they moved gracefully between tables laden with exotic foods. Liam felt out of place among the crowd, his plain clothing starkly contrasting with the elaborate garments worn by the guests. Yet Alara stayed by his side throughout the evening, introducing him to relatives and explaining the significance of each dish. Some tasted sweet, others tangy or spicy, but all carried undertones of unfamiliar flavors that left his taste buds tingling. At one point, Scylla dragged him onto the dance floor, pulling him into a traditional Veilari performance. The music was unlike anything he'd ever heard, a blend of melodic hums and rhythmic pulses that resonated through the floor beneath his feet. Though clumsy at first, Liam eventually found himself swaying in sync with the group, laughing as Scylla spun him around playfully. For a brief moment, he forgot his doubts and simply enjoyed the moment. But the festivities came to an abrupt halt when Liam accidentally offended Scylla during dinner. She had prepared a special dessert, a delicate pastry infused with glowing crystals, and proudly presented it to him. Expecting something similar to Earth sweets, Liam took a cautious bite only to gag at the overwhelmingly bitter flavor. Without thinking, he exclaimed, "What is this? It tastes terrible." The room fell silent. Scylla's expression darkened, and several guests exchanged uneasy glances. Even Alara looked troubled, her usually calm demeanor faltering. "It's a tradition passed down through generations," Scylla snapped, her voice trembling with anger. "You insult my work and by extension our family." Liam immediately realized his mistake. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean—" "Save it," she spat, storming off before he could finish. The atmosphere shifted dramatically after that. Guests began leaving early and tension hung thick in the air. Alara tried to smooth things over, but Liam could see the disappointment in her eyes. That night, as they lay together on the oversized bed, she finally spoke. "Scylla worked hard on that dish," Alara said quietly. "In our culture, food is deeply personal. Rejecting it publicly is seen as rejecting the person who made it." "I didn't know," Liam replied, guilt weighing heavily on him. "I'll apologize tomorrow, I promise." Alara nodded, though her sadness lingered. "Just remember, Liam, our unity depends on mutual respect. If one thread frays, the entire bond weakens." True to his word, Liam sought out Scylla the next morning. He found her in the garden, tending to the glowing plants with obvious frustration. Approaching cautiously, he cleared his throat to get her attention. "Can we talk?" he asked hesitantly. She glanced up, her expression unreadable. "What do you want?" "To say I'm sorry," Liam admitted, meeting her gaze. "I didn't understand how important that dessert was to you, or to your family. I was thoughtless, and I regret hurting your feelings." For a moment, Scylla said nothing, her hands pausing mid-motion. Then, to Liam's relief, she sighed and shook her head. "You're hopeless, you know that, but fine, apology accepted." A small smile tugged at the corners of her lips, and Liam felt a wave of gratitude wash over him. "Thank you, and I'll try harder to learn about your traditions. I don't want to mess up again." Scylla chuckled softly. "Good luck with that. You've got a lot to catch up on." As the day wore on, Liam noticed a shift in the dynamic between him and the sisters. Scylla's teasing became less biting, Tynara's icy demeanor softened slightly, and Alara seemed genuinely pleased with his efforts to mend fences. It wasn't perfect, there were still moments of awkwardness and misunderstanding, but progress was being made. That evening, as they gathered in the sleeping quarters, Alara shared a story about the origins of their family's unity ritual. According to legend, their ancestors had once lived in isolation, consumed by selfish desires until a great calamity forced them to unite. Through shared sacrifices and unwavering support, they rebuilt their society, vowing never to let discord divide them again. "The ritual symbolizes that bond," Alara explained. "Each of us carries a piece of the others within ourselves. That's why our connection is so strong." Listening to her, Liam felt a flicker of understanding ignite within him. This wasn't just about coexisting, it was about becoming part of something greater. For the first time since arriving on Zephyria, he began to see glimpses of what true harmony might look like, not just for the Velari, but for himself as well. Yet even as he embraced this newfound perspective, shadows loomed on the horizon. Strange occurrences began to plague the estate, unexplained power fluctuations, eerie whispers echoing through empty halls, and fleeting glimpses of shadowy figures in the corners of his vision. At first, Liam dismissed them as products of fatigue or imagination, but when Tynara confronted him one night, her face pale with concern, he knew something was wrong. "There's something you need to know," she whispered urgently. "Something ancient and dangerous has awakened, and it's watching us." The strange occurrences at the estate grew more frequent and unsettling as the days passed. What had started as minor disturbances, flickering lights, faint whispers in empty corridors, escalated into something far more sinister. One night, Liam woke to find the glowing patterns on the walls pulsating erratically, casting jagged shadows that seemed to writhe like living things. The air felt heavier, charged with an energy that made his skin prickle. He sat up abruptly, heart pounding, and glanced around the dimly lit room. Alara stirred beside him, her shimmering hair catching the faint light. "What is it?" she murmured sleepily. "I don't know," Liam whispered, his voice tight with unease. "Something's off." Before she could respond, a loud crack echoed through the chamber, followed by the unmistakable sound of footsteps. Slow, deliberate, and coming from somewhere outside the room. The sisters stirred, their eyes snapping open as they too sensed the disturbance. Tynara was the first to rise, her movements sharp and purposeful. She grabbed a small device from a nearby table, a tool Liam hadn't seen before, and activated it. A soft hum filled the air, and the erratic glow of the walls stabilized slightly. "We need to investigate," Tynara said. Her tone clipped. "This isn't normal." Scylla groaned, but quickly joined them, tying back her silver hair with practiced ease. "Great. Just what we needed. A ghost story come to life." Liam hesitated, torn between fear and curiosity. "Do you think it's connected to what you said earlier, about something ancient waking up?" Tynara shot him a piercing look. "Possibly, but we won't know unless we act." With that, the four of them ventured into the darkened halls of The estate. The atmosphere was oppressive, each step feeling heavier than the last. The glowing murals along the walls now depicted scenes that seemed distorted. Once peaceful images of unity were marred by jagged cracks and shadowy figures lurking in the background. Liam couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. They followed the source of the footsteps, which led them to a sealed door at the end of a long corridor. The door itself was ornate, etched with symbols that pulsed faintly, almost as if alive. Alara placed her hand on the surface, and the carvings flared brightly for a moment before dimming again. The door creaked open, revealing a spiral staircase, descending into darkness. "This leads to the lower chambers," Alara explained, her voice barely above a whisper. "Few ever go down there. It's forbidden." "Forbidden why?" Liam asked, dread pooling in his stomach. "Because it holds remnants of our past," Tinara replied grimly. "Things better left undisturbed." Despite the warning, they descended, cautiously, the air growing colder with each step. At the bottom, they found themselves in a cavernous room, filled with towering statues of Velari ancestors. Their faces were serene yet imposing, their eyes seemingly following the group as they moved. In the center of the chamber stood a pedestal, atop which rested a glowing orb, the same kind Liam had seen during the ceremonial feast. As they approached, the orb began to pulse rhythmically, emitting a low hum that resonated through the chamber. Suddenly, a figure materialized before them, a translucent being cloaked in shimmering light. Its form shifted constantly, making it difficult to discern any specific features, but its presence exuded both power and menace. "You should not be here," the entity intoned, its voice echoing unnaturally. "Your arrival has disrupted the balance." Liam instinctively stepped back, his instincts screaming at him to flee. But Alara stood firm, addressing the apparition directly. "Who are you? What do you want?" "I am a guardian," it replied, "bound to protect the legacy of your people, yet your bond is fractured, weakened by discord. And now," its gaze shifted to Liam, "an outsider has entered the fold, bringing chaos in his wake." "That's not true," Alara protested. "We've worked hard to maintain harmony. Liam is part of us now." The entity tilted its head, studying her with an intensity that sent shivers down Liam's spine. "Harmony cannot exist without sacrifice, without understanding. Tell me, human, are you willing to give up everything for this family?" Liam swallowed hard, his mind racing. Everything? What did that even mean? He glanced at the sisters, searching their faces for answers. Scylla looked uneasy, her usual bravado replaced by genuine concern. Tainara's expression remained stoic, though there was a flicker of doubt in her eyes. And Alara. She gazed at him with a mixture of hope and apprehension. I don't know what you're asking of me," Liam admitted, his voice trembling. "But I care about them. I'll do whatever it takes to help." The entity regarded him silently for a moment, then turned its attention back to Alara. "Your unity will be tested further. If you fail, the consequences will ripple across generations." With that ominous statement, the apparition dissolved into nothingness, leaving the group standing in stunned silence. The orb on the pedestal dimmed, its glow fading until only darkness remained. Back in the safety of their sleeping quarters, the weight of the encounter settled over them. No one spoke for a long time, each lost in their own thoughts. Finally, Liam broke the silence. "What did it mean by sacrifice?" he asked, his voice heavy with uncertainty. "And how can I prove myself if I don't even understand what's expected?" Alara sighed, running a hand through her shimmering hair. "Our ancestors believed that true unity required giving up parts of oneself, not just physically but emotionally and spiritually. It's why rituals like ours are so sacred. They bind us together in ways that transcend individuality. But I'm not Velari," Liam pointed out. "I don't have centuries of tradition guiding me. How am I supposed to measure up?" "You don't have to measure up," Scylla interjected, surprising everyone with her seriousness. "You just Have to try. That's all anyone can ask. Tainara nodded slowly, her usual frostiness thawing slightly. She's right. We've all been expecting too much too soon. Maybe it's time we stopped treating you like an outsider who needs to earn his place and started helping you become part of us. Her words struck a chord with Liam. For weeks, he'd felt like he was walking on eggshells, constantly worried about making mistakes or offending someone. Hearing Tainara acknowledge his struggles gave him a glimmer of hope. Over the next few days, the sisters took turns teaching Liam more about their culture, focusing less on rigid customs and more on the underlying values of empathy and connection. Alara introduced him to meditation practices designed to quiet the mind and foster deeper awareness. Sila showed him how to interpret the subtle cues of nature, the way a flower's glow might dim when stressed, or how the wind carried emotions. Across the landscape, even Tainara softened, sharing stories of her own challenges growing up and how she learned to navigate the complexities of family bonds. Through these lessons, Liam began to see glimpses of the unity Alara had described. It wasn't about losing himself entirely. Rather, it was about finding common ground and learning to coexist despite differences. Slowly, he started to feel less like an outsider and more like a thread woven into the fabric of their lives. Yet the specter of the Guardian's warning loomed large. Strange phenomena continued to plague the estate, growing bolder with each passing day. Objects moved on their own, doors opened and closed without explanation, and the whispers grew louder, sometimes forming coherent phrases that sent chills down Liam's spine. One evening, while exploring the garden, Liam stumbled upon Sila sleepwalking toward the edge of the forest. Her movements were jerky and unnatural, as though she were being guided by an unseen force. Panicked, he called out to her, but she didn't respond. Instead, she stepped into the woods, disappearing among the glowing trees. Without hesitation, Liam followed her, his heart pounding with fear. The forest seemed darker than usual. The bioluminescent plants dimmed as if drained of energy. He caught up to Sila near a clearing, where the ground was littered with fragments of shattered crystal. In the center stood another manifestation of the Guardian, its form more solid and menacing this time. "You dare trespass again," it growled, its voice reverberating through the clearing. "Leave now or face the consequences." Liam stepped forward, placing himself between the entity and Sila. "Take me instead," he said, his voice steady despite the terror coursing through him. "Whatever you want, I'll do it. Just let her go." For a moment, the Guardian hesitated, its luminous form flickering. Then, with a wave of its hand, Sila collapsed to the ground, unconscious but unharmed. The entity turned its full attention to Liam, its gaze piercing. "Very well," it said. "But know this. Your choice will alter the course of your destiny, and theirs." With that, the Guardian vanished, leaving Liam alone with Sila. As he knelt beside her, checking to ensure she was all right, he realized the gravity of what he'd done. Whatever lay ahead, he was committed now, to Alara, to her sisters, and to the strange, beautiful world they shared. When they returned to the estate, the others greeted them with relief and gratitude. Though the immediate threat had passed, the sense of foreboding lingered. The Guardian's final words echoed in Liam's mind. "Your choice will alter the course of your destiny." He didn't fully understand what that meant, but one thing was certain. He was no longer just an observer. In this story, he was a participant, bound to the Velari family in ways he was only beginning to comprehend. And as the twin moons rose over Zephyria, casting their ethereal light across the land, Liam knew the trials ahead would test not only his. In the days following Liam's encounter with the Guardian, the atmosphere at the estate shifted dramatically. While the strange occurrences had ceased for now, an undercurrent of tension remained. The sisters were quieter than usual, their playful banter replaced by thoughtful silences. Even Sila, who typically thrived on mischief, seemed subdued, her eyes often distant as though she were grappling with something deep within herself. Tainara spent hours poring over ancient texts in the central chamber, searching for clues about the Guardian's warning. And Alara, She watched Liam closely, her expression a mix of gratitude and concern. Liam, too, felt the weight of what he'd done. Offering himself to the Guardian hadn't been a decision made lightly. It was born out of desperation and a desire to protect those he cared about. But as the initial adrenaline faded, doubt crept in. What exactly had he agreed to? Would the entity hold him accountable? And most importantly, how could he ensure that his actions wouldn't harm the family he'd come to cherish? One evening, as they gathered around the glowing hearth in the main hall, Alara finally broke the silence. "We need to understand why this is happening," she said softly, her voice steady, yet tinged with urgency. The Guardian spoke of imbalance, of discord. "If we want answers, we must look to our past." Tinara nodded, holding up one of the dusty scrolls she'd been studying. "Our ancestors once attempted to create a perfect unity, a merging of minds and spirits into a single consciousness. They believed it would eliminate conflict forever, but the experiment failed. Those who resisted dissolution became trapped between dimensions, unable to move on or fully exist." Scylla shuddered visibly. "You mean, there are ghosts haunting us?" "Not exactly," Alara replied. "These entities aren't malevolent by nature. They're remnants, fragments of beings who refuse to let go. Over time, their frustration has grown, manifesting as disturbances like the ones we've experienced." "So what do we do?" Liam asked, leaning forward. "How do we fix it?" Alara hesitated before answering. "There's an ancient ritual designed to mend fractured connections, not just among the living, but also with those who linger. It requires all of us to participate, opening ourselves completely to the process. It's risky, but if successful, it could restore balance." The room fell silent as everyone absorbed her words. The idea of such vulnerability was daunting, especially for Liam, who still struggled to fully grasp the depth of Velari traditions. Yet he knew they had no other choice. The alternative, allowing the imbalance to fester, was unthinkable. Preparations for the ritual began immediately. The sisters worked together to gather materials: glowing crystals from the forest, sacred herbs dried under the twin moons, and water drawn from the upward-flowing streams. Each item carried symbolic significance, representing different aspects of harmony and connection. Meanwhile, Liam focused on preparing himself mentally and emotionally. Alara guided him through meditation exercises, teaching him how to quiet his mind and embrace the unknown. "You're doing well," she assured him one night, as they sat side by side in the dimly lit garden. "But remember, this isn't just about you. It's about all of us trusting each other enough to let go." "I trust you," Liam replied without hesitation. "And I'm starting to trust Scylla and Tinara too. I just hope I don't mess things up." "You won't," Alara said firmly, placing a hand over his. "We're stronger together than any of us are alone." By the time the ritual day arrived, the entire estate buzzed with anticipation. The grand hall had been transformed into a sacred space, its walls adorned with glowing murals depicting scenes of unity and renewal. A large circle marked the center of the room, surrounded by candles that flickered with ethereal light. As the four of them took their places within the circle, Liam felt a mixture of fear and determination coursing through him. Alara began the ceremony, her melodic voice filling the air as she recited incantations passed down through generations. One by one, the others joined in, their voices blending harmoniously. The air grew thick with energy, and Liam closed his eyes, focusing on the rhythm of their words. Slowly, he felt something shift, a warmth spreading through his chest, connecting him to the others in ways he couldn't explain. Images began to flood his mind, memories not his own but belonging to Alara, Scylla, and Tinara. He saw glimpses of their childhoods, the laughter, the tears, the moments that shaped them into who they were today. In turn, fragments of his own life surfaced, shared with them in a silent exchange of understanding. For the first time, Liam truly grasped the depth of their bond, not just as siblings, but as individuals bound by love and sacrifice. As the ritual reached its climax, The glowing orb from the lower chambers appeared, hovering above the circle. Its light pulsed brighter and brighter, enveloping them in a radiant glow. Then faint whispers filled the air, voices overlapping, some pleading, others angry. These were the lingering spirits drawn to the ritual's power. "Speak your truth," Alara commanded, her voice ringing clear. "Let us hear your pain." One by one, the voices responded, recounting tales of loss, betrayal, and longing. Some admitted their refusal to accept change, while others expressed regret for resisting the unity their people sought. Through it all, Liam listened intently, feeling the weight of their emotions. Though he couldn't fully comprehend their experiences, he understood their need for closure. When the last voice faded, Alara raised her hands, signaling the final phase of the ritual. "We offer you peace," she declared. "Release your burdens and join the eternal flow." A brilliant flash of light erupted, momentarily blinding them. When it subsided, the orb dimmed, sinking back to the pedestal in the lower chambers. The whispers ceased entirely, leaving behind an overwhelming sense of calm. In the aftermath, the estate felt lighter, as though a great weight had been lifted. The glowing murals returned to their original state, depicting scenes of joy and connection. Even the forest outside seemed more vibrant, its colors richer and its songs sweeter. For Liam, the experience marked a turning point. He no longer felt like an outsider looking in. Instead, he saw himself as an integral part of the family. While cultural differences still existed, they no longer felt insurmountable. Through shared challenges and sacrifices, he had earned not only their trust but also a deeper understanding of what it meant to belong. Over the following weeks, life at the estate settled into a new rhythm. Scylla resumed her playful antics, though with a newfound maturity. Tainara softened further, occasionally, sharing stories of her own struggles with adapting to change, and Alara continued to guide Liam, helping him navigate the intricacies of Velari culture while celebrating the unique qualities he brought to their bond. One evening, as they lounged together beneath the twin moons, Liam turned to Alara with a smile. "I never imagined my life would turn out like this," he admitted. "But I'm glad it did." "As am I," she replied, resting her head on his shoulder. "You've shown us that unity isn't about erasing differences. It's about embracing them." Scylla chimed in from nearby, grinning mischievously. "And don't forget, you're stuck with us now. No backing out." Tainara rolled her eyes but couldn't suppress a small smile. "Just try not to cause any more trouble, human." Liam laughed, feeling a warmth spread through him. Despite the challenges ahead, he knew he'd found something extraordinary. A home among the stars, built on bonds that transcended worlds.